Scuderia Ferrari is striving to turn the 2024 Formula One Championship into a more successful year after securing two race victories. One in the Australian Grand Prix at the Albert Park circuit with Carlos Sainz, and more recently on the streets of Monte Carlo in Monaco thanks to Charles Leclerc in 10 races so far. The second major upgrade package for the SF24 single-seater debuted earlier than planned and was introduced last weekend at the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona. Despite the fact that the new Aero package was initially set for the Silverstone Grand Prix, the 10th race of the season, the Spanish Grand Prix, yielded disappointing results for the Maranello team, unable to challenge Red Bull, Mercedes, and McLaren in the battle for a podium finish. Yet another significant development is about to make waves. Italian aerodynamicist Enrico Cardile, Ferrari's technical director of chassis and aerodynamics, has accepted an offer from Aston Martin after a series of persuasive calls convinced him to join Lawrence Stroll's team. Italian engineer Enrico Cardile began his journey with Ferrari during his Aerospace Engineering thesis back in 2002, eventually joining the company in 2005. His career at Ferrari took off in Gran Turismo, where he designed cars like the 458 Italia GT2 and GT3 and the 488 GTE and GT3. In 2016, he moved to the racing department, known as Scuderia Ferrari, as Head of Aero Development and became Vehicle Project Manager the following year. Enrico Cardile became part of the team working to revive Ferrari during the challenging early years of the power unit era. His efforts, marked by both successes and setbacks, have led to victories for Maranello and put Ferrari in the fight for more, despite strong competition from Red Bull and McLaren. Over time, Enrico Cardile gained increasing authority and respect within the former management of the Ferrari racing department. When Mattia Binotto became team principal, Enrico Cardile not only oversaw the chassis department, but also became the de facto technical director, officially assuming the role of chassis and aerodynamics technical director, with the arrival of French manager Frédéric Vasseur last year. Since joining the Maranello team last year, Frédéric Vasseur has worked to bolster Ferrari's technical department, recruiting senior engineers from other teams and placing trust in existing staff. Notable attempts to lure Pierre Wache from Red Bull led only to his contract renewals. However, Frédéric Vasseur's most significant success, announced exclusively by us nearly a year ago, was hiring Loic Serra from Mercedes. According to information reported by the Italian media, Loic Serra will assume most of Enrico Cardile's responsibilities starting in October, focusing on both the 2025 car and the major regulatory changes for the 2026 Formula One car. Loic Serra will begin his work in Maranello on October 1st as Head of Chassis Performance Engineering, although his roles, which include coordinating various departments such as track engineering, aero development, aero operations, and vehicle performance, have raised some eyebrows. Diego Tondi will continue as Head of Aerodynamics, working on further developments for this season's SF24 in order to address some inherent issues with the 2024 Formula One project. Enrico Cardile's departure is unrelated to rumors about Ferrari's interest in Adrian Newey. Despite ongoing negotiations, the legendary British engineer has also spoken with Williams, making a deal with Ferrari not as certain as it seemed a few weeks ago. Meanwhile, Aston Martin's pursuit of Enrico Cardile, as previously reported, has proven successful. Aston Martin has therefore made a significant move by signing the technical director at Ferrari in what is seen as a major reshuffling of talent in the Formula One engineering landscape. This development could potentially see a change in team dynamics and technical strategies at both Ferrari and Aston Martin, influencing future car developments and performances in upcoming seasons. His move to Aston Martin will reportedly come after considerable persuasion from the British team, led by Lawrence Stroll, aiming to bolster their technical leadership as they prepare to compete more aggressively against F1 top-tier teams like Red Bull and McLaren. The 2024 Formula One Championship has been a mixed bag for the Maranello team, which saw early excitement with 2 victories in Australia and Monaco, but faced disappointments in subsequent races, despite the early rollout of a second major upgrade package for the SF24 car a few days ago at the Circuit de Catalunya in the Spanish Grand Prix. Considering it had a deficit of over 3/10 to the lead McLaren and lead Red Bull, and its drivers were just 0.005s apart, the Ferrari is either Formula One's 4th quickest car at Barcelona, or at the very best, a marginal 3rd. This is worse than it would have been expected to go at the Spanish Grand Prix on the overall trend of the season. but given it introduced a major upgrade at Barcelona, that at least offers a clear potential reason. Surely the new version of the SF24 is coming up short somewhere, either through miscorrelation or just not being fully optimized. Well, no, not according to Charles Leclerc, anyway. Charles Leclerc salvaged his weekend from a difficult start after what he described as a very difficult time on Friday, and he was fortunate to avoid a penalty for a significant indiscretion during FP3. Although he admitted he was a bit late getting into the rhythm, he felt he found his stride by qualifying even if the lap time didn't reflect it. He bluntly remarked that the pace is just not there, but he expressed satisfaction with his progress and the improved feeling from the previous day, which he believed would benefit him in the race. However, he was disappointed with the car's pace in qualifying, as it was further off than expected. Despite these setbacks, he asserted that the recent upgrades, including a new high downforce rear wing, beam wing setup, and changes to the side pods and floor, were performing as intended. He insisted that the upgrade Ferrari brought is doing what it's supposed to do, and that it is a good step forward. Charles Leclerc acknowledged it's always a relative sport, but didn't seem to put much stock in the idea that perhaps the likes of McLaren and Mercedes have simply been even more aggressive with their developments. That conclusion would logically be quite irritating for Ferrari, considering it has already accelerated its development pipeline in response to the 2024 championship circumstances. Given that this is the accelerated plan and the upgrades are not underdeveloped, it raises questions about where the team would have been under the original plan. The Monegasque driver pointed out that the gap between McLaren and Mercedes is consistent with what has been seen in the last 3 races, suggesting that the issue lies more with Ferrari's performance this weekend. He noted a clear trend of McLaren improving, especially on a track like this, which is typically seen as representative of car performance throughout the season. He emphasized the need for Ferrari to address this and improve accordingly. There were doubts about whether the track was truly representative. Carlos Sainz, like Leclerc, was disappointed, as he had expected to be in the fight for pole position at his home track. He realized that Red Bull and McLaren were out of reach in Q2, contrary to what practice had suggested. Carlos Sainz had a clear vision of why Barcelona might be exposing the SF24 car's weaknesses. He explained that they had been struggling all weekend with high-speed corners and still faced a bouncing phenomenon, which was likely affecting the tires in the third sector. Reflecting on the situation, he noted that even in the third year, they were still battling this porpoising in high-speed corners when lateral load was applied to the car. It had been tough all weekend to eliminate the issue, and despite their efforts, they hadn't succeeded. Meanwhile, McLaren and Red Bull had 0 bouncing, and he acknowledged that they were doing a good job. Like Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz was disappointed, having expected to be in the fight for pole position at his home track. The realization that Red Bull and McLaren are a bit out of reach came in Q2, Carlos Sainz admitted, as practice hadn't suggested that was the case. But he at least had a clear vision for why Barcelona might be exposing the SF24.